everybody. My name is Chris Campbell, and this is a short presentation to tell you about psychology at St Mary's University. As I understand it, you are at Richmond College, and you'll be studying for a variety of assessments and then looking to go to university. And I'd just like to spend a few minutes telling you about psychology at my university, which is St Mary's in Twickenham. So my name's Dr. Chris Campbell. I'm an associate professor in psychology there. I've been there for about 13 years, so I know the course inside out, and I can tell you now that I like it very, very much indeed. What I'd like to do in this presentation is just tell you a little bit about St Mary's, a little bit about psychology, and then put the two together and tell you about psychology at St Mary's University. And were we together, we would have time for Q&A. Unfortunately, obviously, this being a recording, we don't have a facility for doing that in real time, but I've got some links in the last slide and ways to get in contact. So just a little bit about St Mary's generally. We are a lovely small university that's very high in the league tables when you think about the size of our institution, and that's mainly because of our students really enjoying studying with us and the level of care that they get from us as academics and from the whole university. Part of my teaching at St Mary's is actually statistics. Don't worry if that makes you nervous, by the way. I love statistics. I make it fun. It's all good. It is part of every psychology degree. And I am a little bit, because of that background, I'm a little bit hesitant to talk about league tables and the National Student Survey results, the NSS, because I know just how much league table position can fluctuate on very, very small scores. So if I were you, I would be careful about using those sources of information as your only decision, as your only tool to decide where you're going to study. So my very strong advice is to really think about the course that you're going on to and the type of environment that you want to study in. So if you're thinking about psychology, great. Excellent choice. Psychology, I always say, is the most interesting subject. It's the only textbook, I think, that you can pick up and start reading and go, oh, wow, that's really interesting. That's amazing. That's fantastic. I've been studying psychology now for well over 25 years, and I still find it absolutely fascinating. So I'm sure that you will too. Psychology, you may know, is regulated in this country at undergraduate and postgraduate level by the BPS, the British Psychological Society, and they accredit degrees or not based on whether they cover the core curriculum, the BPS core curriculum, and that's indicated in the dark blue circles in the centre of this diagram. So you've got developmental, so that's sort of lifespan, child development, aging, social psychology, things like how people act in groups, biological psychology, brain chemistry and structure, and evolutionary psychology, explanations for behaviour. You've got cognitive psychology, so that's looking at how we process information. In each of those, you'll also see individual and personality psychology. So often we talk about trends, but we must remember that people are individuals, and even though men might behave one way and women another, as an individual, you'll see a lot more variation. So that's the core BPS curriculum, and the way that's applied in terms of BPS areas are those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 areas. It's like the it's like the dwarfs from Snow White, and whenever I try and name them, I can never get them all right, but there are the 7 for you. So forensic is criminal psychology, sport and exercise psychology, educational psychology, so often helping children who have special educational needs, clinical and counselling psychology, working with people who have mental health issues. Health psychology is working with people who have physical health concerns and trying to do things like look at health promotion behaviours, trying to get people to stop smoking or something like that. Occupational is probably the chartered area of psychology that is the most lucrative, if that's what you're interested in. Occupational psychology is often working in human resources departments or trying to get the most out of employees, matching people's aptitudes to their roles. So unsurprisingly, because you'll be working with business rather than public sector, you'll be working private sector. There does tend to be more money in that area. So those are the chartered areas of the BPS sort of coverage. Over all of that lays research methods. I said earlier that I teach statistics. I teach research methods and statistics. So that's about designing studies, going out, collecting data, analysing that data, and writing those studies up in a way that's comprehensive and that other people can read and understand. So psychology is a science. If you study psychology at St Mary's, you'll be doing a BSc, that's a Bachelor of Science, as opposed to a BA, a Bachelor of Arts. That's because the whole of psychology, we don't just sit in a room and make this up. We go out, we collect data, we make observations, we test theories. So it is a science, and with that you need to have a good scientific grounding. That can sometimes make people a bit nervous and think that maybe psychology is not for them. Do not worry if that's putting you off. I hope it isn't. I hope that's just exciting you and you want to find out why people do the things they do. And you should know by now that we can only find that out by really testing our theories properly. And any psychology degree, but particularly at St Mary's, will guide you through the steps that you need to have the skills to be a really excellent researcher and be able to interpret other people's research as well, and make judgments about whether your reading is good research or not. I'm going to come back to the theme of the BPS when I talk about the different types of degrees that you can do at St Mary's. Let me just talk a little bit about the department. So in the background, by the way, the pictures that I'm showing you are of the campus, which is really beautiful. Now that COVID restrictions are lifting, we are having face-to-face open days. Please check the website for the next one. And it's a really lovely campus. It's very beautiful. It's very green and leafy. And there are some really beautiful buildings that look a bit like Hogwarts, frankly. Psychology at St Mary's is one of a number of degrees that we offer at St Mary's. It's a very popular degree. Psychology in the UK is one of, if not the most popular degree subject. I think nursing was most popular, but I believe that once bursaries for nursing were removed, actually it might be that psychology is the most popular degree. Which means that most psychology degrees at most universities are really, really big. So I've been an external examiner at various other universities. Nottingham Trent University, for example, their first year intake is between 400 and 500 students. Our first year intake is about 70 students, which is a lovely number. That's the number of students that I did my degree with at Portsmouth University, in fact. It's small enough that you can recognise all the people on your course, but large enough that you can hide from people if you don't particularly get on with them. It's one of the smallest degrees in the country. As far as I know, there's only one smaller, and that's Middlesex, and their intake is about 40 students. Most others are huge, in the hundreds, 300, 400, 500 students. So we've got a small, friendly, I'm going to keep saying this word again and again, a really friendly department. The staff are lovely. Our head of department is a guy called Dr. Perry Brugg, originally from the US. He is just a lovely, lovely person, and I think that he sets the tone. He makes sure that the staff are happy, and the staff make sure that the students are happy. It's got a lovely family feel. One of the St Mary's sort of things that it's known for, one of our mottos that we were going by a few years ago, was where we know you by name, and that's absolutely true. We will know you by name. So it's up to you to decide if that's what you want. Would you rather be anonymous in a large crowd of hundreds of students, or would you rather be bumping into lecturers in the refectory and them going, hang on a minute, you weren't in my seminar yesterday. Are you okay? It's up to you. Make a decision about what sort of environment you want to be in. We are a small team of staff. There are 9 full-time members of staff and a technician and an admin person. But we are all research active. There's great research facilities at St Mary's. We've got eye trackers, we've got brain scanners. One of the beauties of the BPS regulating undergraduate and postgraduate training in the UK is that they won't accredit your psychology degree unless you have a minimum amount of facilities. So a certain number of books in the library, subscriptions to journals, technicians, admin people, that your staff are suitably qualified to doctoral level, that you've got lab equipment, computing equipment, all that sort of thing. So if you're doing an accredited psychology degree, you can be sure that the quality of teaching, or at least the quality of facilities that you're going to get, is pretty much guaranteed. You won't get accreditation unless you are able to provide that for your students. So it's quite a nice sort of kite mark, a sort of stamp of approval almost. The thing that does vary from degree to degree is the type of teaching you get, and I have worked at lots of different universities. I've externally examined degrees at other universities, and there is a lot of variation. And I would say, obviously I'm biased, but I've been at St Mary's for 13 years and I'm very happy here, and I intend to stay here because the team are excellent. And the students see that, we're on top of our teaching, we're on top of student issues, we track you, we take care of you, we take pride in our jobs, and my colleagues are really excellent teachers. And you see that in reflections year after year after year on survey. So this is from the National Student Survey. Break it down. Look at questions like, staff are good at explaining things, staff have made the subject interesting. We're always 90% and above. And that's really what I think distinguishes St Mary's. The staff really are excellent. See the picture in the background? That's what I meant about some of the buildings look like Hogwarts. They're kind of beautiful. So we do offer non-accredited pathways at St Mary's. So those are for people who might want to minor in psychology or equal in psychology, where they're doing a little bit of psychology, but they want to combine it with another topic. And you can combine at St Mary's with things like Let me try to remember. If you look in the UCAS catalogue, you'll see it. You can combine it with business studies. I want to say nutrition, drama, I think, creative writing. Gives people a chance to sort of mix their degree a little bit. You can do single honours psychological studies, and that would mean that you're not following the BPS curriculum. It gives you more flexibility. You can do more work experience modules, for example. You won't have to. The research methods modules aren't core. So definitely talk to us if that's something that you're thinking of. I would say that the majority of people do single honours or major in psychology. Look, Chris, they're right there. Sports science, nutrition, English, business, and some others, for example, drama. So you can major in psychology, which means rather than doing 6 psychology modules in a year, you do 4 psychology modules, the core BPS curriculum, and 2 others from a second subject. That's quite popular. I would say maybe 70-ish% of our students do single honours, and about 30% major in psychology with another subject. But most people are doing single honours psychology, where they're doing 6 modules per year. If you'd like to talk to us about your options and thinking about doing psychology or sports psychology, let me know. We can definitely talk through your options. I would say, as a general rule of thumb, that if you're thinking of psychology as a long-term career, then you would want to get your accreditation from your undergraduate degree. You can get BPS accredited in other ways. You can do a fast-track 1-year master's after you've done a non-accredited degree in any subject. But it's easier, I would say, to do an accredited undergraduate psychology degree, and you keep your options open, basically. I would also say, should have said before, that psychology is just a great degree to do, even if you're not quite sure that you want to go on and work in one of the applied fields of psychology. It's really useful for all sorts of careers. So I think it's worth doing a psychological studies degree, but if you think there might be a chance that you're going to want to go on and do postgraduate training and eventually work as a chartered psychologist, you should think seriously about doing an accredited undergraduate degree. Let me explain now. There's a lot on this slide, so let me talk you through what you'll do at each year. So this is worth asking if you're going to other universities, how are they covering the BPS core curriculum? So we made a decision at St Mary's that we didn't want core curriculum subjects in your final year. So your final year, if I work from level 6 backwards, so level 6 is equivalent to your 3rd year of a 3-year undergraduate degree. Your final year consists of an independent project, which is double weighted. I'll come back to that shortly, and 4 options. No exams on those options, and you choose them. So you choose topics that you're interested in. Your final year is really where people start to excel. It's also the year that's weighted heaviest in terms of your degree classification. So we wanted to take the core curriculum out of that year and make that year really fun and exciting for you, and give you modules that you would be interested in and do well on. So our accreditation meant that, so the way we validated our degree meant that we were able to get the core curriculum modules, content, stuff that's necessary for accreditation at level 4 and 5. That's your 1st and 2nd year. So you see there those topics that I was talking about before on that slide with the brain: social and developmental psychology, cognitive and biological psychology, research methods. That's at level 4. Level 5, you've got the social brain and the developing mind. So that's building on the introductory stuff that you've had, forming links between different areas, and more research methods as well. If you're doing single honours psychology, you then also have these two nice spaces in your sort of your yearly requirement. So you've got your 4 core modules that are in the slightly lighter blue, and then to make up your 6 total modules that you'll do each year, you'll do in the first year deconstructing psychology and everyday psychology. So those are really exciting, where we look at applying psychology, where we look at controversies in psychology, things like, so I'm module leader for deconstructing psychology, and we talk about the research on the link between race and IQ and how it was very poorly done and it's been debunked. And we look at all sorts of research like that and really think about the underpinnings of psychology. If you're thinking about majoring in psychology and minoring in another subject, then you'll do the 4 light blue modules, and those 2 darker blues will be where you do your second subject. So your business studies modules, for example, you'll still do the core. You won't get to do deconstructing psychology or everyday psychology. You'll do 2 business modules instead. In your second year, similar sort of layout with the core and then 2 modules where you get to choose what you want to do. And most people choose frontiers in psychology in their first semester and then work experience in their second semester. Frontiers in psychology is an amazing module. It's where we get cutting edge researchers and people working in the field to come in and give guest lectures. In a lot of these modules, and this one is an example of it, you set your own assessment. So there you get to choose one of the speakers' research, review their work, and think about what study they could do next. So yeah, it's really exciting modules. Again, though, if you're doing a joint honours, you would use those 2 slots to go and do your second subject. You can do work experience. Actually, in any of these darker blue slots, you can do a work experience module. So that's where you'd be working with the Centre for Workplace Learning at St Mary's. They're amazing. They will help to set you up with a placement somewhere that's relevant for your interests. Now, a lot of people are like, brilliant, I want to go and work with serial killers in maximum security prisons. No. You're not going to be able to do that as an undergraduate, sorry. But we can maybe get you shadowing somebody. Lots of people like to work in schools. Some people like to work with charities, mental health charities. Some people come and work with the lecturers as research assistants if they're thinking about a career in research. Some people work in HR departments. There's all sorts of things you can do, and the Centre for Workplace Learning will help set you up with those placements. The assessments you do are sort of reflective diaries, thinking about what you've learnt. You have to do a minimum number of hours. It's very manageable, don't worry. And then those credits count towards your degree. And I think they're brilliant. They're great for your CV for when you're applying for jobs after your degree. They're sometimes really helpful because they sort of give you the experience to know what you don't want to do. So some people think, I want to be an educational psychologist, I want to work with children. They'll go and have a placement in a school. They'll come back from their placement and go, I never want to work in schools or with children ever again. So I really recommend that students do work experience, but you don't have to. You can do an alternative module called transferable skills. That's where we look at how you can take your psychology knowledge and apply it to the real world. Let me talk a bit more about level 6, your final year, which is where it really gets exciting. You get to do 4 options. These are just some of the examples: counselling psychology, applied child psychology, health psychology. My one is the psychology of intimate relationships. So that's gender, sexuality. We cover things like non-monogamy, polyamory, sex, kink, the law around intimate relationships, all sorts of things. So it's a really interesting module. So I'm just using mine as an example. They're all equally interesting. On mine, you do an essay that you set yourself. I'm not sure if I can say this on camera, but one student this year did an essay, for example, on why do people send unsolicited graphic photos of genitalia to random strangers on the internet. And she reviewed the literature. It was so interesting, such an interesting question. So that's the kind of thing that you can look at. So I hope that's got you excited about that. Often people ask about assessments at this point if we're in a room together. Like I say, in the final year, no exams. In the first year and second year, you do have exams for the core modules, but the research methods modules are open book 1 hour exams, so you can take notes in with you. The core modules of the developmental and social and biological, and I've forgotten one, help me. What did I do? Social, biological, developmental. I knew I would forget one. I told you it's like the blowing seven dwarfs. Cognitive. So for those, you do have exams, but they're multiple choice. In the second year, they are essay based, but you'll be really well prepared for them. And as well as the exams, you'll have a piece of coursework as well. So I know that at the moment, if you're doing A-levels, they're very exam heavy. That model is not something that's pursued at universities generally, because we're interested in assessing your deep learning rather than your ability to remember. So in your final year, no exams at all. You do 4 options and you'll do a final year project. This is where St Mary's really distinguishes itself from other universities. Other universities with cohorts of 400 or 500 students, everyone has to do a final year project. So that's an independent piece of research. But if you've got big cohorts at universities I've taught at previously, you have to do those projects in groups. So groups of 6 or 10 students all working together on the same project. So obviously you don't get the chance to tailor your project choice to something that you as an individual want to do. At St Mary's, because we've got a small cohort, it really is individual. You work one-on-one with your allocated supervisor. You decide on your topic within reason. So people who do, so I had a student who wanted to go into forensic psychology. So we're like, great, let's get you a topic in that area. It's very difficult to do work with offenders. So she wanted to go into the police. That's often a route into forensic psychology, is to work with the police first, then train as a forensic psychologist and get in that way. So her project was looking at public perceptions of male and female police officers, and short story, male police officers are perceived as competent and female police officers are perceived as caring and not competent, and male police officers not caring. So that was great. She got to tailor that research to something that was really relevant to her interests, and she was then able to talk about that at her interview for the police service, and she got on and she's doing really, really well. So I think it's a real strength of the program at St Mary's, and if you're looking at universities, that's worth asking about. That can have a big impact on your success in getting on masters or doctoral postgraduate training, or going into directly into the workplace. It can really give you something meaningful to talk about along with your work experience as well. So our external examiners always comment on this as unusual and to be commended. They said there's an incredibly diverse range of topics covered within third year projects, a wide range of interesting topics, makes for interesting reading, and high engagement with the assessments. And high engagement just means you're really into it. And if you're really into something, you tend to do better. So I hope you can see why it's really advantageous to be able to do a project on a topic that you are choosing. After the degree, there's Perry. There's our lovely head of department there. After the degree, after you graduate, people in that top photo are not looking as smiley as they should. It's a lovely day. After you graduate, lots of people go straight into law enforcement, for example, human resources. You can go straight into working in the mental health fields or into the military. Quite a lot of people go into postgraduate studies. So if you want to work in one of the chartered fields of psychology, you will need to do postgraduate study. At St Mary's, we offer an MSc in Psychology of Mental Health, which is a great route into clinical counselling, those sorts of routes. Lots of people go on to do PhDs or other master's programs. Lots of people go into teacher training. St Mary's is, I was about to say world renowned and then paused, but I think that's fair to say actually. World renowned as an amazing teacher training college. That's what St Mary's was originally set up as during the 1800s. So it's got a real excellent history of that. And if you want to go on to teacher training straight after your psychology degree, which a lot of people do, you can stay at St Mary's, which is quite nice. So I hope that's been useful for you. I'm going to finish just by saying that obviously I haven't been able to cover everything. I'm sure you'll have questions. Please, please, please do get in touch. You can email psych@stmarys.ac.uk. You can telephone us. You can follow us on Twitter and comment on our feed and ask us any questions there, or send us a DM. There's more information about psychology from the BPS. And if you are watching from Richmond, please go to this website, stmarys.ac.uk/RUTC. That's specifically for you, and you'll be able to see, you can book on for an open day. You can make contact with us through there, basically, so please do. I'm terribly English, so I'm not very good at blowing my own trumpet, but I will say that our external examiners consistently say that nice things like this. You have a fine institution with dedicated and excellent staff. It really is a lovely university. I hope that you will consider it when you're looking around at universities. Even if you don't, I hope that my presentation has been useful to you and given you some information that's going to be helpful when you're looking around at other universities. And please, if you have any questions, please do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks very much.